want to leave now. Before.
Keeper, 2025. Full English overview and extended synopsis. General information title. Keeper genre. Psychological horror. Supernatural thriller. Mystery director. Osgood, Oz. Perkins writer. Nick Leopard producers. Chris Ferguson. Jesse Savath music. Ido Van Bremen cinematography. Jeremy Cox production companies. Odd Fellows Entertainment. In association with Neon Distributor. Neon, United States. Country, language, Canada. United States, English. Runtime, 999 minutes. Rating, R for disturbing. Violence, language, and thematic intensity. Release date, November 14th, 2025, U.S. Theatrical release. 2. Main cast actor, Rol Tatiana. Maslany, Liz Rossif. Sutherland, Malcolm Tess. Dagenstein, Maggie Claire Friesen. Ada Erin Boyce. Julia Eden. Weiss, Minka Gina. Voltaggio, Francis Christine. Park Madeline. Most of these characters revolve around the central couple, Liz and Malcolm, their friends, neighbors, and fragments of haunting memories tied to the cabin. 3. Story summary, non-spoiler overview. Keeper, 2025, follows a woman named Liz, who travels with her husband Malcolm to a remote cabin deep in the woods. It's meant to be a quiet getaway, a chance to mend their fractured relationship and rediscover each other. But shortly after they arrive, Malcolm leaves suddenly for urgent business, promising to return in a day. Alone in the isolated cabin, Liz begins to experience strange occurrences, faint whispers, flickering lights, and chilling presences that seem to echo her own thoughts. What begins as loneliness turns into paranoia and terror. As Liz unravels the cabin's history, she discovers that something, or someone, is keeping her there. Something that feeds on secrets, guilt, and grief. The film blurs the lines between psychological and supernatural horror as Liz's perception of reality collapses. 4. Thematic core Osgood. Perkins, known for The Blackcoat's Daughter, Gretel and Hansel Longlegs, brings his signature slow-burn, atmospheric horror to Keeper. The story explores isolation, being trapped physically and emotionally, trust and betrayal. What happens when love becomes control? The past. Trauma resurfacing in quiet spaces. Possession and identity. Whether the evil is internal or external. The title Keeper itself is symbolic. It refers both to a caretaker of a place or a soul, and to the idea of being kept, imprisoned or possessed. 5. Extended plot breakdown, speculative but based on verified details. Act 1. Arrival. The film opens with haunting landscape shots, fog rolling over the pines, the cabin sitting alone by a lake. Liz and Malcolm arrive, their relationship already tense. Conversation feels forced. Affection seems rehearsed. Malcolm is a quiet man, overly composed. Liz tries to joke, but her attempts to connect reveal fractures. They explore the cabin, rustic, wooden, but oddly sterile. No signs of life. In one of the bedrooms, Liz finds an old box with faded photos, people who once lived there. A woman's face is scratched out. The mood builds unease, subtle rather than overt. That night, while they drink wine, Liz hears scratching in the walls. Malcolm dismisses it. Mice, maybe. The next morning, Malcolm gets a phone call. His expression changes. He says it's work and leaves abruptly. Liz is left alone. Act 2. Isolation. At first, Liz enjoys the solitude, reading, cooking, walking through the forest. But soon she notices odd details. The front door sometimes opens on its own. She finds footprints leading into the lake. Voices whisper when she's half asleep. She tries to call Malcolm, but reception is dead. The landline crackles with faint breathing sounds. One evening, she finds the same scratched-out photo lying on the floor, though she had placed it inside the box. A faint figure appears behind her reflection in the window, vanishing when she turns. Dream sequences begin. Liz walking through corridors of the cabin that shouldn't exist, encountering a shadow wearing Malcolm's face. When she wakes, she finds bruises on her wrists, as if someone had grabbed her. The tension escalates when she receives a voicemail. Malcolm's voice, but distorted, repeating, "Don't leave the house. Don't let her out." Liz begins to suspect that she's not alone, or worse, that she herself may not be who she believes. Act 3. The Keeper revealed, through fragments, visions, voices, and flashbacks. Liz pieces together the history of the cabin. Decades earlier, a caretaker, the original keeper, murdered his wife and child after hearing voices from the woods. Liz finds journals hidden beneath the floorboards, entries written by a woman who describes being watched and manipulated by an unseen force. Each entry mirrors Liz's current experiences. At one point, Liz hears knocking from the basement. She discovers a locked room, the keeper's room. Inside are tools, shackles, and photographs of different women, each with her face scratched out, each resembling her. Then Malcolm returns. But something about him is wrong. He's distant, speaking in a detached tone. When Liz accuses him of hiding something, he claims she was the one who invited it in. Their argument turns violent. The lights flicker, walls seem to breathe, and the shadow of the keeper manifests behind Malcolm. Whether it's real or a projection of Liz's fear is left ambiguous. Liz fights back, stabbing Malcolm. But the moment she does, the cabin transforms. The old wallpaper returns, the air thickens, and Liz sees herself as one of the women in the photographs. Act 4. The cycle as dawn breaks, the camera pans through the cabin's rooms, now abandoned again. Another couple arrives, looking around as potential buyers. A voice whispers faintly, "The keeper must stay." The final shot shows Liz's face reflected in the window. Faint, ghost-like, smiling faintly as if she's watching them. Perkins is known for atmosphere over shock. Keeper reportedly uses long static shots, minimalist dialogue, natural lighting, most scenes lit by lamps, firelight, or moonlight. Sound design that uses silence, echoes, and faint whispers. Slow camera movements. The horror builds through tension, not speed. Cinematographer Jeremy Cox creates a muted, cold palette. Greens, browns, pale blues, evoking isolation and decay. Composer Edo Van Bremen's score mixes dissonant strings and low-frequency hums, creating a sense of unseen dread. Symbolism. And interpretation keeper continues Perkins's fascination with haunted women. Characters whose fear stems from emotional trauma as much as from ghosts. Possible interpretations. Psychological. The supernatural elements represent Liz's dissociative breakdown. The keeper is a metaphor for her own mind trapping her. Supernatural. The cabin itself is cursed, a living entity requiring a keeper to guard its darkness. Metaphorical. The marriage is the prison. Liz's role as the kept wife becomes literal. Each reading is valid, depending on how the ending is interpreted. Behind the scenes and production background announced at the 2024 Cannes Film Market. The project was shot during the Hollywood strikes, using Canadian production teams. Perkins wrote and directed Longlegs, 2024, before jumping straight into Keeper. Neon acquired both projects. Filming took place primarily near Vancouver and Bowen Island, British Columbia. Principal photography ran from February to April 2024, with post-production completing in mid-2025. The teaser premiered at Fantastic Fest 2025, drawing comparisons to Hereditary and The Witch. Expected reception and early buzz critics, from early festival screenings, described Keeper as a haunting chamber piece, intimate, unnerving, and visually stunning. Tatiana Maslany delivers her most vulnerable and terrifying performance since Orphan Black. The film is expected to appeal to fans of A24-style slow horror, intelligent, metaphor-driven storytelling rather than conventional scares. 10. Potential script structure, speculative sequence description, opening. The couple drives through the woods, unsettling quietness, hints of past trauma, inciting incident, Malcolm's abrupt departure. Rising tension. Liz's solitude turns to dread, discovery of journals and visions. Midpoint twist revelation that the keeper is linked to Liz's identity. Climax. Malcolm returns. Confrontation blurs reality and illusion. Resolution. The cycle restarts with new visitors. The curse endures. Why? It Matters Osgood Perkins is one of the few modern horror filmmakers who merge emotional depth with traditional horror imagery. Keeper seems to combine the emotional decay of The Others, 2001, the existential dread of The Lighthouse, and the symbolic horror of Hereditary. It's not just about ghosts, it's about memory, guilt, and entrapment. Technical Credits Department. Crew Director Osgood, Perkins Screenwriter, Nick Leppard Producer, Chris Ferguson, Jesse Savath Cinematography, Jeremy Cox Music, Ido Van Bremen Editor, Danny Raffick Production. Design, Douglas McLean Costume. Design Heather Neal Sound Design, Trevor Gates Visual Effects Supervisor Michelle Stewart 13. Marketing and Trailers. First teaser, July 2025. Focuses on silence and visual tension. Liz exploring the cabin, whispering, "Do you hear that?" Second trailer, August 2025. Reveals glimpses of shadow figures, distorted faces, and a chilling final line from Malcolm. "You were never supposed to wake up." The promotional campaign leans on mystery. Neon deliberately avoids showing the entity or explicit violence. Conclusion Keeper, 2025, is shaping up to be one of the year's most anticipated psychological horror films, haunting, poetic, and deeply unsettling. At its core, it's a story of love corroded by fear, of memory turning against itself, and of a woman discovering that sometimes the most dangerous place isn't haunted.